everybody. I usually give a lot of love to John, Paul, George, and Ringo, but I still have a lot of love for the wonderful folks around them. So today I want to give a lot of love to Julian Lennon. He really has had quite the journey so far. Sometimes in the spotlight, sometimes not. But for me, he always shines as an exceptional, unique individual, always looking to add beauty and positivity to this life. Whether it's making music, filmmaking, photography, writing, philanthropy, or just sharing his stories, all forms of art and expression. I've heard him referred to as a Renaissance man. And that really does fit when it comes to Julian Lennon. Not too long ago, he sat down for an interview with The Guardian magazine, and there's a great quote that he gives here. The interviewer asked him, "You seem remarkably sanguine. How do you manage it?" I think it was Mom, watching how she handled what she was dealt with love and grace and positivity. I saw that that's the only way forward. You take the high road. You be the better person and try to learn from all the crap that's thrown at you. And Julian really has had a lot of crap thrown on him, a lot of heartache, where everyone could see and have opinions on. In a lot of ways, he's just like us. We're all on that journey. We're all trying to figure things out. We're all trying to figure out who we are. We're making mistakes. And yeah, he's probably had it easier than us sometimes, but at other times he's had it much, much harder. But it seems to me that he has quietly flourished and grown stronger. He changed his name from John Charles Julian Lennon to Julian Charles John Lennon. That was in 2020. This was him making peace with his heritage, getting better at being his own man and his father's son, with the emphasis on being his own man. In 2022, he released the album Jude. This was him talking about his journey, embracing the heritage of Jude and all that entailed. He did call Paul McCartney and have a conversation with him, letting him know what he was going to be doing, like, "Hey, Jude." And then in August of 2024, he opened a retrospective exhibit of his photography entitled Whispers. And later on that year, he released the book of his fine art photography entitled Life's Fragile Moments. Whispers, Life's Fragile Moments. I think those titles really tell you a lot about Julian and his art. He says he's always been a keen observer, and I'm sure he sees something deeper within his subjects. He looks beyond the facade. He sees the beauty and the strength in their vulnerability. Makes me think it's the inner that matters more to him than the outer. He's obviously a complex individual, an artist living an artistic life, seeing the world through his own unique lens, trying to convey what he sees and what he feels, whether it's through his art, his music, his photography, his storytelling. He's whispering rather than shouting. He's being optimistic rather than jaded or cynical. He's philosophical and pragmatic. He's probably never going to get a lot of clicks or go viral, but what he has to offer is going to last. When I watch his interviews, I will sometimes see Julian gracefully sidestep certain topics or subject matter, and unfortunately, the host will sometimes talk more than Julian does, and I'm sure that Julian gets a little bit sick and tired of that stuff. But there's this one interview that he does with Kevin Nealon. Kevin Nealon, the comedian. Kevin has this YouTube channel where he goes hiking through the foothills of LA and he's interviewing celebrities. So about 3 or 4 years ago, he's hiking and interviewing Julian Lennon. And it's fantastic. I'll give you a link in the description. They're joking around with each other. Julian is very witty. He's vulnerable. I'm finding out things I didn't know before. And he's being very charming. And he says love about 1 million times in this interview. And I also find out in this interview that when he was in school, he wanted to be an artist. Well, maybe I already knew that, but whatever. But he tells a story of wanting to be an artist when he was in school because mom and dad were artists. But once he got in front of an appreciative audience, singing and playing guitar, he says, that was it, man. I don't want to be an artist anymore. This is what I want to do. And I've also heard him talking about being sort of stubborn. This was from 1982. He says that he was having a hard time with money back then, and he just didn't want to get a 9-to-5 job. That was just not who he was. And that was shortly before his first album, Volat, came out. So I guess he didn't have to have a 9-to-5 job. In a lot of interviews, Julian is inevitably asked about his father, his relationship with his father, like the death of his father. And Julian will give a short, straightforward answer to that. I guess he's made peace with answering those type of questions. But you can watch Julian kind of take control here and tell the story that he wants to tell. He will often tell stories about the love of his mother and how great she was, or he'll tell about the origin stories of his White Feather Foundation. So he'll take those probing questions and turn it into a story about love and giving. That's just who he is. Julian also says he's working on his memoirs, but it's not going to be your typical autobiography. He says he's not sure if it's going to make sense to a lot of people, and he's not sure exactly how he's going to structure it, but he does say he wants it to be based on art and emotions. There's another wonderful quote from Julian from that same Guardian interview where he says, "Well, you've got to think. What would it be like if you didn't do anything? If you weren't positive? Stay the course. Believe that things can be better." And I think that's Julian in a nutshell. Living a life where you work to be better. Believing things can be better and then making them better. He's a good man with a good heart, not looking for acclaim. He's more about giving and expressing love. Julian, a life of art and emotions. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Please like and subscribe. And until next time, peace and love one another. Take care.